Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience, Manifest Your Truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And this particular story and video today is a cautionary tale about life and how your freedom and moving around in society and taking advantage of going to school, getting a great job, having a great career, being an entrepreneur, or having a family, raising kids is the best way to go. And to be God-fearing, live a positive life, manifesting your truth in the right direction is way safer and healthier than being incarcerated, whether it's state prison or the federal penitentiary. And I want to share two stories of some of the most violent federal penitentiaries that we have had in the United States. And we all know that there is not a single form of rehabilitation that goes on for individuals who end up serving long prison sentences. Many people end up worse by the time they get out than when they went in. So let's talk about it. We're going to talk about Thomson Penitentiary in Illinois that just closed, and also Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to share some stories with you, and I want you to please listen. All young people, parents, it is a much better life to be free than to be locked up. Here we go. After several deaths, the feds choose to close violent prison unit in Illinois. In 2022, the Marshall Project and NPR revealed deadly, dangerous, and cramped conditions in some of our federal penitentiaries. The Federal Bureau of Prisons is closing a notorious high security unit at Thomson Penitentiary in Illinois after frequent reports of violence and abuse. An investigation last year by the Marshall Project and NPR found that Thomson had quickly become one of the deadliest federal prisons, with 5 suspected homicides and 2 suspected suicides since 2019. The report also exposed conditions that stoked violence when volatile prisoners were locked down together in small cells for nearly 24 hours a day. A BOP, Bureau of Prisons spokesperson said in an email that they recently identified significant concerns with respect to institutional culture and compliance with the Bureau of Prisons policies at Thomson, requiring immediate corrective measures. Officials would not comment on where the hundreds of people held in the Special Management Unit, SMU, at Thomson were being transferred. Now remember that, Special Management Unit. You're going to hear that a lot. Those housed in the general population and the minimum security camp will remain at the prison. The move comes just weeks after another man at Thomson, 32-year-old Victor Gutierrez, was found unresponsive and died, according to the Justice Department press release. The department has not disclosed his cause of death. Men at Thomson have also reported that guards abused them, including placing them in painful 4-point restraints for hours or days at a time. Prompted by the Marshall Project and NPR's reporting, the Department of Justice Inspector General launched an investigation into the deaths and alleged mistreatment. The special unit was originally housed at Lewisburg Penitentiary in Pennsylvania, a facility known for similar high rates of violence among prisoners and staff shackling the people held there. It's unclear whether the unit, which is meant to separate the most disruptive people in federal prison from the general population, if it will reopen elsewhere. A federal official, similar with issues at the prison, said men transferred from Thomson will be housed at comparable security levels in a different facility. So they closed Thomson in Illinois, and now they have to figure out where they're going to replace these prisoners. But will the conditions be any better? Corrections officers at Thomson have been calling for the warden's firing in recent months, pointing to a high rate of staff vacancies and sexual assaults on officers. Union officials say there are 100 empty positions at the prison, despite multiple job fairs and hiring bonuses. Jonathan Zumker, president of Local 4070 of the American Federation of Government Employees, the union that represents Thomson staff, said he was told jobs would not be lost at the prison, but that vacant positions will not be filled. This is a disservice, and it will devastate the local community, he said of the unit's closing. Thomson Penitentiary was built in 2001 as an Illinois state prison, but sat empty for years until the Justice Department bought it. Lawmakers, including U.S. Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth, both Illinois Democrats, cheered its opening as a way to bring hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars in revenue to the region. Both have since called for more oversight of this prison, Thomson. So these two senators are more concerned about the economy and jobs than the conditions of these prisoners at Thomson. We have been informed by the Department of Justice that the BOP leadership is taking corrective measures to address deeply troubling findings of a recent review of the facility. Senator Durbin and Duckworth said in a joint statement on Tuesday that we were assured by the Attorney General that these changes were temporary and that Thomson will continue to play an important role in the BOP system. So the two senators wanted it to stay open and never address the conditions and inmates stabbing and killing each other and or assaulting each other and assaulting correctional officers where they are understaffed by over 100. Attorneys and advocates for men at Thomson said the closure was long overdue, but concerns remain. Those who have been transferred out are profoundly relieved, said Jacqueline Kutnick-Bowder, Deputy Legal Director of the Washington Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Urban Affairs, a legal nonprofit that has sued the Bureau of Prisons over treatment in the Special Management Unit. Our primary concerns now is that this is simply relocating a problem. That's just what I said. They're not worried about the conditions inside of the four walls of the prison and how people are being treated, prisoners are being treated inhumanely. They're more worried about the revenue, the income, free labor, etc., and no rehabilitation. Thomson Penitentiary was particularly horrible, but there's a culture in the BOP that needs to be addressed and changed. And so even at Lewisburg, so Thomson has closed in Illinois, and now in Lewisburg Penitentiary in Pennsylvania, I'm going to give you a clear cautionary tale of what has been taking place there. So let's go back all the way to February 3rd, 2011. Corrections officers at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary in rural Pennsylvania arrived outside Sebastian Richards' cell door. With them was a man looking agitated and rocking back and forth. He stared down at Richardson, who was 4 feet 11 inches tall and was nicknamed Bam Bam. So this is a real true story. The man officers told Richardson was his new cellmate. The two would spend nearly 24 hours a day celled together in a concrete room smaller than a parking space. Richardson, 51, didn't know his cellmate's name, only that he also went by a nickname, the Prophet. He had a habit of screaming songs or shouting the spelling of words for hours, as though competing in his own private spelling bee. There were also rumors that he had assaulted more than 20 previous cellies. He's Lewisburg's weapon, said former Lewisburg inmate D'Angelo Moore. If he likes you, he likes you. But if he don't, he's your worst enemy. Every cellie he got, he always ended up fighting, said Linnell Gray, another former Lewisburg inmate. He was just crazy. So when officers told Richardson to cuff up and step aside to make room for his new cellmate, he refused. Richardson later claimed in a lawsuit that the guards took the Prophet away and then returned 30 minutes later with reinforcement. They moved him to a laundry area to be strip searched and put in paper clothes. Richardson yelled in pain as they then placed him in hand and ankle cuffs, clipping them tighter until they cut into his wrist and Achilles tendon. A chain locked high on his chest in a practice known among staff as T-Rexing forced his arms into an awkwardly high bend and made it harder for him to breathe. Officers then walked him hauntingly to a cell with another man who was being held in identical shackles. According to the inmate's lawyer, Lewisburg staffers and more than 40 current and former prisoners who made similar claims in lawsuits, court testimonies, government audits, or letters and interviews with the Marshall Project and NPR, restraints are used as punishment in Lewisburg, often for those who refuse cellmate assignments. Inmates have no say over who they share their cell with, even if guards place them with someone who has a violent history, or is from a rival gang, or is suffering from a severe mental illness. If they try to refuse a cellmate out of fear, as Richardson said he did, they are locked into a metal ambulatory restraint for hours or days until they relent. Several prisoners said that they were threatened with or subjected to a punishment for more painful scenarios than ambulatory restraints, a form of punishment that at other prisons is used as a short-term last resort for uncontrollable inmates. It is known as the four-pointing and consists of having each limb cuffed to a corner of a concrete slab or bed frame. Richardson was freezing in the new cell. He claimed that guards let the window open when they locked him in. His paper uniform was no match for the Pennsylvania weather or winter air. It didn't help that the uniform was soaked in urine. In restraints, he wasn't even able to pull his pants down to use the toilet. Richardson's cuffs also made the top bunk an impossible reach. So when the other prisoners would take to the bottom bed, Richardson did the only thing he could. He would curl up on the concrete floor. Guards came in every 2 hours to check on him. Richardson said they ignored his complaints, his swelling hands, his soiled clothes, and his cut ankles. Instead, they retaliated or reiterated his options: be locked in a tiny cell with a violent man or cope with the restraints. The Special Management Unit here in Pennsylvania at Lewisburg, where Richardson was housed, was created in 2009 for dangerously violent, confrontational, defiant, and antagonistic inmates, according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Richardson was serving a 35-year sentence for drug trafficking. and was transferred there in March 2010 for assaulting a correctional officer. In his telling, he was intervening in a fight between a guard and an inmate. So he claims that he was not even fighting. He was intervening between an inmate and a guard. The aim of the SMU, the Special Management Unit, is to increase safety at other federal prisons by culling their most problematic inmates and putting them through a 3-step rehabilitation program. If an inmate breaks a rule or gets into a fight, he may have to repeat the step. Prisoners are assigned a series of workbooks and journal entries to be completed in cell on topics like the con game, the criminal lifestyle, and anger management. BOP lectures play over inmates' radios, instructing them on everything from diversity to parenting. At Lewisburg, the vast majority of those inmates are in double cells, solitary, housed with another prisoner in cells as small as 6 feet by 10 feet for nearly 24 hours a day. The cells were originally built for just one person, but officials doubled up the SMU inmates in order to teach them how to successfully coexist. According to the prisoner handbook, it also helped alleviate overcrowding high security federal prisons, which are understaffed by more than 50%. As a result, prisoners in the SMU unit share excessively tight cells between their bunks, sink, toilet, desk, and roommate. There's barely enough room to stand. One guy said, "When I use the toilet, his feet are on my knees," said Moore, the former Lewisburg inmate. Inmates get a brief reprieve from their close, tight conditions every week just for medical care, 3 showers, and 5 hours of recreation in a cage. Double cell solitary is a common practice in federal prisons, where more than 80% of nearly 11,000 inmates in restricted housing have a cellmate. But Lewisburg has the added danger of housing some of the Bureau's most violent and volatile prisoners. I've gone as many as 3-4 cell fights a day, and a lot more than you would see at any other institution, said current SMU correctional officer who spoke on the condition of anonymity. He said guards and SWAT gear up often seen running down the tier with pepper balls and handcuffs to break up brawling cellmates, including the prisoner who was found kicking his roommate lying in a fetal position. The prisoner who tore off half of the cellmate's ear, and the inmate who slashed his cellmate with a razor blade. According to the incident reports obtained by the Marshall Project and NPR, officers responded to 228 in-cell fights and assaults with restraints or pepper spray in 2014 and 15. At least 19 inmates were treated for injuries such as a collapsed lung, a broken rib, multiple stab wounds, and head injuries. Since the SMU, the Special Management Unit, opened, there have been more than 800 recorded inmate-on-inmate assaults, a rate 6 times higher than all federal prisons. And at that time, at least 4 inmates have been killed by their cellmates. Please, I know this is a long video, but I want everybody to open their eyes and ears up to when you decide out in free society to commit a crime and you claim you are not afraid to go to prison, there are many animalistic, hedonistic, demonic individuals that are waiting for you. And if you are young, it is much easier to go to school, learn a trade, get a degree, be successful in society, and reap all its benefits than spending the rest of your life in the penitentiary with savages. These prisons are not rehabilitation centers, and in free society, you can navigate your way away from chaos and disruption. But in prison, there's nowhere and no room to hide. You're going to address craziness each and every day. So please listen. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth.